So when Microsoft decided to start purchasing Activision Blizzard, I never thought in 100 years that this situation would get to the point that it is today. And now it seems we are going to start turning into a new chapter of this whole debacle situation, whatever the hell you want to call it, with Microsoft deciding to flex on those that are wanting to resist this deal. And I mean, it's a very small minority of regulators. We know who they are, the CMA and the FTC. Microsoft is going to essentially put their boot on their neck and set a precedence for the future going forward. I never thought that a video game company making a video game purchase for video games would set a precedence so groundbreaking for antitrust regulation around the world. Leave it to video games to just blow my damn mind. But here we go. Let's just chat about it because, I mean, Microsoft is potentially poised to make a very serious move to get this deal over the finish line. A short while ago, I thought it was just kind of like filler on Twitter or just a talking point. But Florian Mueller over on Foss Patents put on his Twitter feed that investment bank Macquarie recommends that Microsoft proceed with the Activision deal despite potential legal battles with the CMA in the UK. Macquarie believes it's worth fighting the CMA's objection to set a precedence against allowing one country to block a significant deal. Now, when he came out and said that, again, I thought it was just a talking point. But now we're starting to see that Microsoft has hired additional lawyers to start exploring ways to close the Activision deal despite the CMA blocking the deal. And Mr. Mueller did put out on his Twitter post that it's only natural for Microsoft to explore these potential plan Bs, plan Cs to get this deal over the finish line if the CMA continues to want to keep blocking the deal. Now, I didn't really think that Microsoft would want to explore these options, and so I didn't really give them too much heavy thought until just recently. Bloomberg released a report stating that Microsoft is considering an extreme option of withdrawing Activision from the UK, and that it indicates that Microsoft is exploring measures to overcome the CMA's block and mitigate the impact on the deal. And that's when it really started getting the gears turning in my head, because there is reasons why Microsoft would pull out of the UK. But before I get into that, Mr. Florian Mueller did state that he believes closing the deal over the CMA's objections or carving out the UK would be better than the deal falling through, but he considers these options the third best. For him, the best option would be for Microsoft and the CMA to work out a resolution, while the second best option is for CAT to overturn the CMA's decision altogether. But let's really look at one objective reason why that I am really considering that Microsoft could potentially carve out, do something with the UK at this point. And that is because by some math that I did with looking into some things, what was pointed out is the deal has already been cleared in 37 countries at the time of the math that was done. We're already at 39 countries, so the math is even greater at this point. But with more than 950 million inhabitants in these 37 countries, this makes it 4 times larger than the UK's population size and about an aggregated GDP of about $24.5 trillion, which is 8 times that of the UK. So to really put it into perspective, let's really look at this objectively. If Microsoft does not get this deal over the finish line, they have to basically fork out $3 billion to Activision, kiss that money off, and watch Activision right off into the sunset with that money. Or Microsoft can do something that could trigger potentially some fines over in the UK with the CMA, and they obviously start pulling out of the UK and not worry about the UK economy because they have literally 39 other countries willing to support the deal and help create economic stimulation for the deal to help offset some of the very large losses, but not as large as if they just let this deal fall through the cracks. But to really look at it objectively, they can, like I said, either give Activision that $3 billion or face the potential fines that the CMA are going to throw at Microsoft And one of the numbers that I've read in an article that is they could be charged $3 billion in fines. So we can either A, pay $3 billion to Activision and not get shit, or we can pay $3 billion to the CMA and own Activision, and then at the end of it all, tell the CMA UK to kiss our ass. I honestly am starting to really wonder what's going to happen with that situation, because now we're starting to hear that Microsoft President Brad Smith plans to meet with the UK Chancellor Jeremy Hunt to express his frustration regarding the CMA's block of the Activision deal. This meeting provides an opportunity for Smith to discuss his concerns directly with a high-level UK government official. And one of his concerns and complaints is that, according to Activision's legal counsel, they allege that the CMA only spent 4 weeks out of its 32-week investigation on cloud gaming effects in the Microsoft Activision merger, suggesting that the CMA's focus on potential competition impact in cloud gaming was relatively limited. And this is one of the big reasons why Microsoft has a strong case when it comes to the appeal process in the UK. But just in case, they are already exploring a plan B of forcing the UK to potentially look at the ramifications, which is probably what Brad Smith is going to explain when he goes and has his visit with the UK Chancellor, that if by some chance the CMA continues going down this road, there could be serious economic harm done to the UK. And that's where, you know what, at the end of the day, don't care what anybody says, major corporations are kind of like the systems of checks and balances, in my opinion, to an out of control government. Because when a government becomes out of control and they start trying to swing their freaking mighty power or whatever they feel you at in their little minds, sometimes corporations can really put those governments into check by just saying, hey, we can affect how much revenue you're going to make. And that's where there's a very close balance. And I'm very curious if by some chance they're going to kind of scare the UK government into really wanting the CMA to kind of back the F off. And that's where it's just going to go even deeper than that, because now Microsoft is even got a plan to force the FTC. And that's a lot of people are talking about, forcing the CMA or carving out the CMA and all this other stuff. Nobody's talking about what they got planned for the FTC. And I've done a little bit of digging into that, and this is even getting even funner. So one thing that's gone a little bit under the radar, at least in my opinion, is that recently Microsoft tried to send more remedies to the FTC about the ABK deal. They're doing this as an attempt to hopefully kind of see if the FTC sees the light, since recently the EU approved the deal and a lot other countries have approved the deal. And they're hoping by some chance the FTC has come to their senses and will actually kind of let go of their whole brutal idea of trying to take Microsoft to task for trying to buy Activision. But apparently the FTC did not even reply to the remedies, which is where Microsoft is now going to be at this point where they feel that they're going to have to force the FTC's hand. This was kind of outlined a little bit again by Florian Mueller. I love the articles he puts out and the statements he puts on Twitter. He outlined about how, because of the FTC's inability to respond or to communicate objectively, or the fact that they're just completely acting like a-holes, Microsoft at this point might decide to force the FTC's hand, and sometime potentially in June, or at least before July 18th or July 17th, when the whole ABK deal is supposed to be at least over the finish line, according to the deal that Microsoft and Activision struck out when they signed the deal. If they decide to kind of go along with the deal against the FTC's wishes, this is where the FTC at this point will have to stop playing around with their whole administrative court and actually file what they call a preliminary injunction. And this would automatically take the case from their administrative court straight to a federal court, because the FTC at this point has done this childish thing of wanting to block the deal but not filing an injunction, which drags Microsoft into the FTC's little personal administrative court where they have to play by their rules. And, Microsoft could, again, play hardball with the FTC and just decide to press the matter and decide to push the deal over the finish line anyways, which would force the FTC's hand to have to file a preliminary injunction, which would no longer make it to where the FTC gets to take Microsoft onto their little personal playing field. They go straight to a federal court where things are handled on a completely different level, because here in the United States, the FTC is not allowed to regulate with a crystal ball based on what could potentially happen in the future. They have to regulate based on actual concrete hard facts that they can prove in court. And if they can't do that, they'll just look like idiots. And that's why we've been saying this whole time, the FTC is going to get embarrassed if they go to court. And we already, again, have seen 39 countries approve the deal, especially with the EU. Every time a country decides to approve the deal, the arguments of the CMA and the FTC just keep getting weaker and weaker. And we are now about to see Microsoft decide to finally challenge these two regulatory groups and force their hands into basically, the whole concept of it's time to put up or shut up, because they are tired of playing games with both the CMA and the FTC. If I could just close out this whole conversation with saying that I never thought that this whole situation would make the gaming community all of a sudden become so damn political. At the end of the day, gaming has helped me through some pretty crazy situations and some pretty hard times, and I really love gaming. I love covering the ABK deal and the education that it has given us through how mergers and acquisitions really take place. And because when Microsoft bought out Bethesda, we didn't really see or hear any of this. We didn't see this with PlayStation buying Bungie. This whole deal between Xbox, Activision, the FTC, the CMA has really shed some light on how serious these situations can get. But I never thought that we would see this serious of a situation with a video game purchase. At the end of the day, it's just video games. We're not over here talking about life-saving medicine or some new fancy technology that's going to potentially impact the world like AI. We're talking about video games. And since it has become so political with the whole gaming sphere and how people are acting during this deal, I've seen friendships ended. I've seen people berate individuals that have made a life or a career out of being analysts that cover deals like this. I've seen people get all of a sudden up in arms about how one country needs to keep their mouth shut while another country is allowed to interject their opinions and belief system on another country. I mean, the entire whole situation has turned into one giant hypocrisy. And that's where I'm really curious, where once the dust settles, the deal is over the finish line, or Activision's riding off into the sunset with $3 billion. I'm just really, there's going to be people out there that have lost friendships. They're going to have lost connections with people that would have essentially been great allies in creating content in the gaming content community. I'm just completely shocked. Like, this is where I'm even fumbling my words, because it's just asinine that this whole situation has gotten, honestly, this out of hand, both on a regulatory level and on a community level. It's insane. Now, if you did enjoy today's content, please give me a like and subscribe down below. All that fun stuff YouTube likes to see. For more continued coverage of the ABK deal and the stuff that unfolds, please always tune in right here. I'm actually enjoying covering this whole deal. I've enjoyed everybody's engagement with their comments down below. Some of them are really great. Other ones want to definitely educate me on how they feel things should unfold. As always, please feel free to leave more comments down below. Always, please check out the end card I put on the end of all these videos. Check out my latest video before this one. Go on my channel, explore past content. And I always end out with saying, because I believe in it, that no matter what, anybody ever tells you. You should always play the games you love on the platform you prefer, and that's just the way it should be. I am Centurion 1307, and thank you for watching.